Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
You can't even imagine how exciting it is to have everybody here. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. So we're so glad everybody's here with us in the synagogue, and everybody who is streaming with us, Shana Tova. Turn to your neighbors, wish everybody Shana Tova, wave to them. We're not going to shake, but, you know. But this is the largest group of people we have had in this sanctuary since 2 Purims ago. So, that's an amazing thing. God willing, it stays good. Just a few notes for people at home, for people who are here. You have machzors under your seats. I am not going to really be announcing too many page numbers because they're all going to be on the screen at the bottom right. You can use the screen if your eyes are still good. You can use the machzor at home. Everything will be on the screen, so you have nothing to worry about. We'll have some choir singing on the screen, pre-recorded. They recorded, well, no, the 2 pieces they recorded aren't in this morning service. They'll be back at Kol Nidre. If you're at home, try to get comfortable, but try to make your home feel a little like shul. Imagine yourself here with everyone else, and feel free to read right along and sing at home. There will be, in the early part of the service, our machzor has a little bit of a vorspeise of shofar and a reminder that in Mishkan HaNefesh, the shofar service is spread 3 places in the service. So it's not all at once, it is spread out. And because I have so much technology to worry about, I will not be facing the ark. When we face the ark, Cantor will face the ark on my behalf, so I can keep running the slides. And please feel free to participate. If you're going to sing, sing softly, but read along just like usual, sort of, except not. And following the service, we will do tashlich together. We'll, if the weather holds up, and I guess it will, we'll meet out in the garden, distanced. We'll hand out the services. We'll do tashlich together. Everybody can grab a leaf or something, and we'll head down to the river, I guess in small groups. We'll figure that out. Autumn light in maple leaves, bluest sky, new washed dawn, chorus of birds southward bound, deepest red chrysanthemums, earth's first rains, smoky breeze, fresh-picked apples, honey sweet, golden morning and the world reborn. Here we gather to greet the year, invitation to improve our lives, joyful season and judgment day. Know this truth, we are free to change. Let the shofar summon us home. Make this moment our return to you. Now in celebration join. Open us to the gifts of life. ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, supreme power of the universe. You sanctify our lives with mitzvot and give us the sacred obligation of learning and living Torah. Our God eternal, let us taste the sweetness of your Torah's words, and let them give pleasure to your people, the house of Israel, so that we, our children, and all the generations of Israel shall come to know your name and study your Torah for its own sake. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Some mitzvot sustain us not only in this world, but also in the world to come. They are honoring our parents, acting with kindness and loyalty, eagerly pursuing Jewish learning at all times, welcoming guests, visiting the sick, rejoicing with couples under the chuppah, caring for the dead and mourners, delving deeply into prayer, making peace among human beings, and the study of Torah. This is the cornerstone. Belonging to Israel is in itself a spiritual act. Blessed are we, blessed our gathering, as we open our hearts to the voice of the shofar.
Happy are we who hear its call to return, the sacred trumpet of Teshuvah.
Blessed are we held close by an ancient sound that echoes Lador Vador from generation to generation.
Happy are we rising to the joyful cry of a new year.
Blessed are we who hear in these blasts the sound of the voice of these blasts of sound, the voice of community.
Happy are we who know its embrace, its season of celebration, its quest for connection and purpose.
Holy is this gift of community. Blessed the act of belonging.
Tekiah, Shvarim Torah. Tekiah.
Blessed is the soul-reaching sound of the shofar. It proclaims the purpose of this day. Blessed is community, source of joy, solace, and strength to every living soul. Ha'el b'ta'atzumot uzecha, hagadol b'chvod shemecha, hagibor lanetzach v'hanora b'noratecha. Holy One, infinite your power, radiant your glory, unbounded your might, awe-inspiring your works.
יושב על כיסא רם ונישא, שוכן עד מרום קדוש שמו, וכתוב רנינות צדיקים אדוני, הישרים נאווה תהילה. בפי שערים תתרומם, ודברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון החסידים תתקדש, ובקרב קדושים תתהלל. ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל התודות, אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך העולמים.
Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of praise, source of the impulse to give thanks, crown of wonders, who desires a world filled with song and a universe of life.
יתקדש, ויתקדש, שמי רבה, בעלמה תברח חירותי, וימליך מלכותי.
Baruch atah
עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם. יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel. Know the oneness at the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to Mekor HaChaim.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto
Leolam Vaed. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובמלאכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 163. Remember the story of slavery, and you will never stop working for freedom. Remember their fear at the edge of the sea, and self-doubt will never defeat you. Remember when desperation turned to celebration, and you will never let go of hope. Remember the words of the Baal Shem Tov. Forgetfulness leads to exile. Remembrance is the secret of redemption.
Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osefela.
Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai,
Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, osefela. Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai. Shira chadasha shibechu geolim l'shimcha sfat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'yimlichu v'yameru Adonai malach leolam va'ed.
Shira chadasha shibechu geolim
L'shimcha sfat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'yimlichu v'yameru Adonai yimalach leolam va'ed. Zu Yisrael, b'Ezrat Yisrael, u'b'deichenu mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, u'aleinu Adonai tzvahot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Kol Yisrael.
We rise for tefillah, page 166.
Adonai sifatai tifnach ufiagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo,
Eloheinu,
Elohei
Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Gadol, Gibor, Behanora, Elyon,
Gomel Chasadim Tovim.
Lekonei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, U'mevi Yehulah.
Livnei v'neihem leman Shemo be'ahava.
Zokrinu l'chaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chodvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, leman ha'Elohim chaim, melech ozer u'moshiach u'mah. Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avram V'Yazrat Sarah
Amen.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל. מחלקל חיים בחסד, בחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נוטלי ברופא חולים, ומדיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני העפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מת ומחיה ומצליח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני לחיי המתים.
Amen. Please be seated. Our actions help us live in such a way that when we suffer life's darkest depredations, we will always have ways of coping with them. Our actions may not change the ultimate outcome one iota, but they alter our attitude, bolster our ability to withstand challenges, help us handle unavoidable misfortunes better, and see life's value amid chaos and dismay. Uvechenu lecha ta'alei kedusha, ki ata Eloheinu melech. And so let these words of sanctity ascend to you, for you are our God and sovereign.
ונתנה תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא היום, ובו תינשא מלכותך, ויכון בחסד כיסאך, ותשב עליו באמת.
Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten. And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself, for every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other.
Rosh Hashanah.
page 179. On Rosh Hashanah, we plunge like swimmers into a sea of words. On Yom Kippur, the sea rises, then crests, and we emerge sealed by the wax, warmed by the fire of braided candle. The new year is like a trailhead, opening wide before us. The day of fasting, narrow, breathless, so quick to close. We contemplate a new year, and this we know. Some of us will live, and some of us will die. Some will die young, and some very old. Some by water, and some by fire. Some by sword, and some by beast. Some by hunger, and some by thirst. Some by plague, and some by earthquake. Some by stoning, and some by strangling. Some of us will feel at ease. Some will be restless. Some will have peace of mind. Some will have strife. Some will be tranquil. Some will be tormented. Some will be raised high. Some will be brought low. Some will have riches. Some will be impoverished. Even so, the way we act, the way we speak, the way we meet God's image in ourselves and in others, these things have great power to make our lives better. Therefore, let us make whole the broken shards, green and thick the withering grass. Let the wind fill us with urgency for life. Let dreams give birth to justice and goodness. God of holiness, God of hope, let us glimpse your truth as we attach our hope to yours.
ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוע הגזירה.
But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. We rise for Kedusha, page 184.
נקדש, נקדש, נקדש את שמך בעולם, נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמירה מרום. ככתוב ביד נביאך, וכרזה אלה ואמר.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech kol haaretz Tzevaot.
nitzachim, kedushat anakdish. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagikod lecha. Ulenetzach nitzachim, ulenetzach nitzachim, kedushat anakdish. V'shivtaha Eloheinu, v'pidu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. Ki hamelech gadol, ki hamelech gadol, v'kadosh ata. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid god lecha. Ulenetzach nitzachim, ulenetzach nitzachim, kedushat anakdish.
Page 189. By its mere existence, Judaism is a never silent protest against the assumption of the multitude that force is superior to truth. Just because it was always a minority, Judaism has become a standard of measurement of the law of morality. How the Jewish community has been treated by the nations among which it has lived is always a measure of the extent to which right and justice have prevailed. For the measure of justice is always its application to the few. It requires religious courage to belong to a minority such as Judaism always has been and always will be, for many days will come and go before the Messianic time arrives. Page 192. I've been counting. There's a lot of choir members here this morning, and I know that you're just dying to... I know. Soon. God, soon. The first part of our shofar service, Malchuyot, begins on page 200. We are stiff-necked and stubborn. Teach us to bend before you. Convinced we're right, entrenched in our own perspective, we resist your call to repent. Convinced we're self-sufficient, entrenched in the illusion of control, we resist your call to humility. Convinced we can have it all, entrenched in the dream of mastering the world, we resist your call to wake up. Today you summon us out of our arrogance, out of rigidity, fantasy, shallowness, self-deception. Teach us to bend our knees and to bow our heads before the mystery, to realize our frailty and our finitude. Teach us to make you Melech, sovereign in our life, to align ourselves with your goodness and truth. We would not bow before Pharaoh. We would not bow before the Persian lord. We would not submit to any power on earth or give ourselves to any material thing. But we, the Jewish people, stiff-necked, stubborn to the end, today we bow before you. We rise for Aleinu Gadol.
ולא שמענו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, בגורלנו כהמונם. ואנחנו משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Blessed are hearts that respond to the majestic music of the shofar. Blessed is the gift of life, the power of renewal that brings us to this day.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu lishmoa kol shofar.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Amen.
תקיע שברים את רוח תקיע תקיע שברים תקיע תקיע תרועה תקיע.
Please be seated. Hayom Harat Olam. Today the world is born anew. This day the whole of creation stands before you to be judged. As we are your children, love us in the way of mothers and fathers.
הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך ערב ונישא. הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך ערב ונישא. מבינו מאזין מביט ומקשיב לכל תקיעתנו. מבינו מאזין מביט ומקשיב לכל תקיעתנו. ותקבל ברחמים ברחמים וברצון סדר על מעיותינו. ותקבל ברחמים ברחמים וברצון סדר מחיותינו.
Page 209. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, be'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam be'ahava tekabel, utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, el karov lechol korav, penei el avadecha v'chonenu, shefoch ruchacha aleinu, v'techezena einenu b'shuvcha letzion berachamim, baruch ata Adonai, hamachazir shechinato letzion. To our sages who toiled, to the one who chopped wood, to the one who raised cattle, to the storekeeper, the cobbler, and the one who sold salt, to the one who brewed beer and the one who led casks of wine to the tailor, to the teacher, to the dealer in cotton, to the one who scrubbed clothing, to the keeper of vines, to the merchant of silk, to the one who plowed fields, to the builder of houses, to the doctors and scribes, to the blacksmith, to the tanner, to the digger of graves. Let us give thanks for a tradition that sanctifies work. Let us honor those who toil and sustain the world in noble and humble ways. We acknowledge those whose labor goes unnoticed. We praise the strength of their hands and the dedication of their hearts.
אלוהי אבותינו, ברכנו הברכה המשולשת, הכתובה בתורה. יברכך אדוני Yair Adonai Hanov Elecha Vichonaka
Kein Yehi Ratzon
Yisa Adonai Hanov Elecha Yasem Lecha Shalom
Kein Yehi Ratzon. Page 216.
Sim Shalom Tova uvracha ba'olam Ve'in ba'chesed Berachamim aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael Amecha Arheinu Avinu Arheinu Avinu Kulanu Ki echad Be'or Hanecha Ki Be'or Panecha Natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torah Chaim V'Ahavot Chesed U'Tzedaka U'Veracha V'Rachamim V'Chaim V'Shalom V'Tov Menacha Levarech et Amcha Yisrael B'chol עת ובכל שעה שמך בספר חיים ברכה, בספר חיים, בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה. ניזכר וניכתב לפניך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We take a few moments now to pray or meditate in silence.
יהי רצון אמרי פי, יהי רצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart, be acceptable to you. Oh God, my rock and my redeemer. Oh, say shalom imramah. Say shalom aleinu, Te'oko Yisrael, Te'imeru, Te'imeru, Amen.
On page 223, we rise for Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu chamol aleinu v'alol aleinu v'tapeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu kalein dever v'cherev v'raha me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu kalei kol tsar u'mastina me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu kodveinu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu chadesh aleinu shana tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu koneinu vaneinu ki en banu masim aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu shema koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu chamol aleinu v'yalol aleinu v'tapeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, v'cherev v'ra'a me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, kalei kol tsar u'mastim me'aleinu.
Avinu נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה. אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה. אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש נורא שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה, הגבורה, התפארת, והנצח וההוד. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, והמתנשא לכל לראש.
Please be seated. I guess you know what our Torah portion is. It is the Akedah, Genesis 22, the binding of Isaac. And like any good Torah, if you read it year to year, you learn something new or you find something new that inspires you, or I'll admit in the case of this year, I found some new things to be angry about. But that's, I think, the world we're living in right now inspired that anger. A little bit at Abraham, a little bit at God, and a little bit of compassion a lot of compassion for Isaac, and even some for Ishmael, who is off in who knows where, having been thrown out of his parents' home. Many of you know, some of you know the Rashi on this, because when God says to Abraham, take your son, your only son, the one you love, Isaac, Rashi fills in the rest of the conversation, because Rashi wonders, why doesn't God just say, take Isaac? That would make it a lot clearer, wouldn't it? So Rashi fills in the conversation, and it goes like this. God says, take your son, and Abraham says to God, I have two sons. God answered, your only son. Abraham said, this one is the only son of his mother, and this one is the only son of his mother. And God then said, the one you love. Abraham replied, I love both of them. And God said, Isaac. And though it's tempting to be angry at Abraham for what he does in the course of the story, and to be mad about his fanaticism and his fundamentalism and his not arguing with God here, where just a few chapters before he argued with God about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah who he didn't even know, I realized that Abraham didn't know better. But the fanatics and the fundamentalists of our day ought to know better. The ones from one party throwing rocks at the leader of another party ought to know better. The people who reject science ought to know better. The people who are not worried about the fate of everyone around them ought to know better. But I'm going to give Abraham the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just going to give you a commentary by Dina Weiss that kind of brings home the compassion and the feeling of Abraham going through this and thinking about both of his sons. When God says, please take your son, Abraham is hopeful that God could be saying, please take your son back. Abraham wants to hear God inviting him to retrieve Ishmael from the desert. Abraham keeps on suggesting that the son God is referring to is Ishmael, because please take Ishmael would mean bring home your beloved son. Whereas please take Isaac could mean anything. What he wants to think is that God could be telling him to retrieve his lost son instead of telling him to take away the son he has at home. Then when God says, Yechidcha, your only son, Abraham is pushing back with desperation and screaming, I have 2 sons, I still have 2 sons. When God says whom you love, Abraham is still clinging to a last shred of hope, reminding God that he loves both of his children, that he misses Ishmael no less than he loves Yitzchak. Then God says Yitzchak, and Abraham knows that it is over. Abraham is doubly devastated. God shuts down the possibility that Ishmael is ever going to come back. Then God asks Abraham to take his remaining son, the only son that he still has left, the son that he loves, and kill him, Yitzchak. Abraham has already driven out one son, and now he finds out that he is bound to sacrifice another. Okay, so I guess I'm angriest at God, but we know how the story ends. In the same way we know how the story of Job goes. Job is ready to cry out against God, and we know that God, at least according to the story, rhetorically is just playing a game with Satan. But we take hope that someday all the polarization, all the screaming and yelling and rock throwing, all the misogyny, all the xenophobia, all the homophobia can end, because we know that in the end of this story, that when Abraham sees the last days of his life, that Isaac and Ishmael will come back together to bury him as a family. You'll be able to follow the Torah portion this morning on the screen, or if you're at home, you can see it on the screen. It's also in your machzor on page 240. Ta'amod, Brindel bat Moshe v'shendel l'kriyat Torah. For the honor of coming first to bless Torah, we call upon Brina Taylor. Ta'amod, Shendel bat Shmuel ubracha rishona. For the honor of coming first to bless Torah, we call upon Shay Eckler. And they're in the same bubble, sort of, so they can stand next to each other, which is nice.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Amborach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Voed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Bamim V'noton Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Vayahi achar hadevarim ha'ele v'ha Elohim nisa et Avraham. Vayomer elav Avraham vayomer hineni. Vayomer kachna et bincha yechidcha asher ahavta et Yitzchak v'lech lecha el eretz haMoriah v'ha'alehu sham le'olah achad harim asher omar elecha vayashkem Avraham baboker ויחבוש את חמורו, ויקח את שני נעריו איתו, ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקע עצי עליו, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי ויישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן.
Yasher koach.
ישר כוח.
Ya'amod Shimon Betzalel ben Chaim u'Miriam lekriyat Torah. For the honor of coming next to read Torah, we call upon Steve Borlak. Ya'amod Eliezer ben Shimon Betzalel u'Nechama Sheni. For the honor of coming next to bless Torah, we call upon Mati Borlak.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים ויעשה לעולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים יראה לו עשה לעולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויבוא אל המקום אשר אמר לו אלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויקוד את יצחק בנו. וישם אותו על מזבח ממעל העצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם אברהם, ויאמר הנני. ויאמר אל תשלח ידך על הנער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי, כי ירא אלוהים אתה, ולא חסכת את בנך את יחידך ממני. וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא והנה איל, אחד נחס בסבך בקרניו. וילך אברהם ויקח את העיל, ויעלהו לעולה תחת פנו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Yasher koach. Ta'amod Belabat Berka Vesara Lakriyata Torah. For the honor of coming next to read Torah, we call upon Bridget Weisberg. Ta'amod Adabat Mordechai Umira Shlishit. For the honor of coming next to bless Torah, we call upon Adele Hyman.
Do you see where it is? Do you know where it is? So Vayyomer, or Vayikra Abraham, Oh wait, no, that's the right one. Vayikra Abraham, right? It's the first one. Vayikra Abraham, right? Okay, just read it.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, notein haTorah.
Amen. Vayikra Abraham, Shem hamakom hahu Adonai yireh, asher yamer hayom, behar Adonai yireh. Vayikra Malach Adonai el Abraham, Shenit min hashamayim, vayomer bi nishbati neum Adonai, ki ya'an asher asita et hadavar hazeh, velo hasachta et binha et yehideha. Ki varecha varechecha, v'harba arbe et zaraha, et zaraha, kahave, hashamayim, v'harba asher Al-Shavaya, Vayirash Zaraha, Et Sha'ar Oivav, V'yitbarachu V'zaraha, Kol Goyei Ha'aretz, Ekev Asher Shamata B'koli, Vayashov Avraham El Ne'arav, Vayakumu, Vayalhu Yachdav, El Be'er Shava, Vayeshev Avraham, Biver Shava.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, notein haTorah.
We take a moment to offer a Mishaberach for those in need of healing, for those who lie on beds of pain at home or in hospital, for those searching for recovery in their lives, for those whose hearts are torn with grief or anguish, for those who struggle to recover from COVID-19 or its after effects. If anyone here or at home has the name of a loved one for whom our healing prayer might bring comfort, please say their name aloud wherever you are. sing our healing prayer together.
May the source of strength will bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bishaberach imotenu mikor habracha liavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please rise.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe livnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Ashlosha devarim, ashlosha devarim, ashlosha devarim ha'olam omed. Ashlosha devarim, ashlosha devarim, ashlosha devarim ha'olam omed.
Our Haftarah for the first day of Rosh Hashanah comes from the book of 1 Samuel, the story of Hannah, the mother of Samuel, who goes to the temple because she's not able to get pregnant and prays to God, and shows a similar kind of faith that Abraham does in our Akedah, and is rewarded with her son Shmuel, who will become one of our greatest judges and prophets. For the honor of leading us this morning, we call upon Jessie Saunders-Drutz, who we also thank for all the amazing choir videos that she put together for us. And you can follow along. Blessings begin on 247, and the Haftarah itself begins on page 250. For those of you at home, it will all be on the screen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah v'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo v'nvi'ei haemet v'tzedek. Vayehi ish echad min haramatayim tzofim mehar Ephraim ushmo Elkanah ben Yerocham ben Elihu ben Tohu ben Suf Ephratih velo shtei nashim shehem achat Chana v'shehem hashenit Pnina vayehi lefnina yeladim ulchana ein yeladim. Ve'ala ha'ish hahu meiro me'amim yamima lehishtachavot ve'lizboach l'Adonai tzevaot b'Shiloh ve'sham shenivnei li chofni u'finechas Kohanim Ladonai. Vayehi hayom vayisbach Elkanah v'natan lefnina ishto ulkol baneha uvnoteha manot ulchana yitein manachat apayim ki et chana hev Vadonai sagarach maha Vatakom chana acharei ochla veshilo v'acharei shato Va'eli hakohen yoshev al hakiseh al mezuzah techal Adonai Vehi marat nafesh v'titpalel al Adonai uvachotiv keh Vatidor neder v'tomar Adonai tzevaot imraho tirei ba'oni amatecha uzchartani velo tishkach et amatecha untata le'ametcha zera anashim untati v'ladonai kol yemei chayai umora lo ya'ale al rosho Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol adorot Ha'el haneman haomer ve'oseh Hamdaber umkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'devar echad midvarecha achor lo yashuv rikam ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el hane'eman bechol devarav Rachem al Tzion ki beit chayenu V'la'aluvat nefesh toshia bimheira ve'amenu Baruch atah Adonai Mesamech Tzion bevaneha Tzamcheinu Adonai Eloheinu Be'eliyahu hanavi ovdecha V'malchut Beit David meshichecha Bimheira yavo ve'yagel libenu Al kiso lo yeshev zahar Ve'lo yinchalu od acherim et kevodoho Ki v'shem kochecha nishbata lo Shelo yichbe nero le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Magen David Al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hadbim ve'al yom hazikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed udvarach emet v'kayam la'ad Baruch atah Adonai Melech al kol haaretz Mekadesh Yisrael ve'yom hazikaron
We continue now with Zichronot on page 267, the second part of our shofar service. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, God of remembrance, remember the covenant of our ancestors. We reaffirm it today. Remember, we are a people of noble ideals. Help us attain them. Remember all your people, all the nations on the road to peace. Bless their efforts. Remember with mercy the binding of Isaac, the sorrow of Sarah, Abraham's words, Hineni, here I am. Our memory fades, but you remember all that we have forgotten. Your presence is a throne where all things matter, and nothing is lost. Baruch atah Adonai, Zocher Habrit. Blessed are you, Adonai. You remember the covenant. You remember us. Please rise.
Tekiah, Shvarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah.
Please be seated.
Areshet Sifateinu Yerov Lefanecha Eram Elisa. Areshet Sifateinu Yerov Lefanecha Eram Elisa. Bevinu mazin mabitu makshif le'ekol tekiyatenu. Bevinu mazin mabitu makshif le'ekol tekiyatenu. Utkamer berachamim berachamim uvratzon zeder zichronotenu. Utkamer berachamim berachamim uvratzon zeder zichronotenu.
Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzor Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. Avinu, you who are high above all nations, states, and peoples, Rock of Israel, the one who has saved us and preserved us in life, bless the state of Israel, first flowering of our redemption. Be her loving shield, a shelter of lasting peace. Guide her leaders and advisors by your light of truth. Instruct them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect our holy land. Deliver them from danger. Crown their efforts with success. Grant peace to the land, lasting joy to all of her people. And together we say,
Amen.
Amen. We rise as we prepare to return the Sefer Torah to the ark. Yeah, hallelujah, Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado.
Otoleres Ishamayim Vayorem Keren Yamu Tehila L'Kol Chasidov Livnei Yisrael Am Kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu. A precious teaching have I given you, my Torah. Do not forsake it.
Yitzchayim hi lamachazikim ba betomcha beroshar derachea dorchenom bechonetivotecha Shalom, Terachea, Dorchenom, Bechonetivotecha, Shalom. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Hashuva, Ben Hashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yaminu Kedem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Hashuva, Ben Hashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yaminu Kedem.
Baruch atah Adonai, shomea kol truat amo Yisrael berachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people Israel.
Tekiah. Shvarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shvarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah Gedolah. Yesher koach.
Baruch Tieh. Please be seated.
Rashet Zifatenu Yerav Lefanaka Elram Benisa. Rashet Zifatenu Yerav Lefanaka Elram Benisa. Mevinu Mazin Mabitu Makshiv Lekol Tekiyatenu. Mevinu Mazin Mabitu Makshiv Lekol Tekiyatenu. Utkaber berachamim berachamim uvratzon Teda shofrotenu. Utkaber berachamim berachamim uvratzon Teda shofrotenu.
I don't know if this is true of all couples, but I've discovered that once you're married long enough, you don't really try as hard to surprise each other with gifts. Yes, sometimes you find something amazing that you know your partner would love, but after 31 years of marriage, Karen and I usually just ask, what would you like for your birthday? What would you like for Hanukkah? Are we doing something for Valentine's Day? Just a card? Great. It's a sign of that wonderful, comfortable love that we have after so many years. Now, I read the New York Times every Sunday. Well, I should say I get it on Sunday. Usually takes the whole week to read it. And if I happen on something tantalizing in the book review, I just rip out the tiny title, leave it on Karen's spot in the den, and then it disappears. Next birthday or Father's Day or what have you, the book appears. I think it might be magic. For my birthday last month, it was a new book by James Lapine called Putting It Together, How Stephen Sondheim and I Created Sunday in the Park with George. Now, I know most of you probably already read it. But if you haven't, it tells the story of the musical that Sondheim and Lapine wrote about the artist Georges Seurat and the creation of his most famous painting, and there is no way I'm going to try to pronounce the name of it in French, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of La Grande Jatte. And hopefully I got that right. There it is. The musical is gorgeous, by the way, but reading the book reminded me of how incredible the painting of Seurat is, and that reminded me of actually seeing this massive painting with my son Jacob at the Chicago Art Institute back in 2009 as part of his baseball road trip. But we stayed in Chicago for 4 days because we wanted to see the White Sox and the Cubs, so we had time to do the museums in between. And that reminded me of how I recreated with my phone that fantastic scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Ferris's friend Cameron just stares and stares at the painting. The camera gets closer and closer and closer until you see nothing but multicolored dots. So here's my version. I don't have the music to go with. There's that oboe, beautiful little oboe thing happening. Only when you are far enough away can you see what's really in the picture. And that reminded me of a teaching by Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, the founder of Reconstructionist Judaism. Speaking about the importance of Shabbat for us and for God, Kaplan wrote this: "An artist cannot continually be wielding his brush. He must stop at times in his painting to freshen his vision of the object, the meaning of which he wishes to express on canvas. Living is also an art. The Sabbath represents those moments when we pause in our handiwork, pause in our brushwork to renew our vision of the object. Having done so, we take ourselves to our painting with clarified vision and renewed energy." This past 18 months has left so many of us so close to our canvases, too close to see big pictures, too close to think about our souls, too close to do much but get through each day without worrying ourselves to death. I am convinced that my soul has been broken by COVID. Maybe yours has too. We've endured and seen so much illness and death and sadness, not to mention loneliness and separation. I am badly in need of repair. Now, when the Torah speaks of Shabbat in Exodus 31, which becomes our Vishamru, it tells us that God Shavat vayinafash. Shavat means ceased. That's where we get the word Shabbat. And it's really hard to translate vayinafash. It comes from the root nefesh, nun shin, which means soul. In Exodus, it's been turned into a passive verb, which is one of the amazing things about Hebrew. You can do that. I guess you could translate it as was sold or was resold with a U. Our Siddur Mishkan Tefillah says was refreshed. The Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, are supposed to renew us as human beings, way more profoundly than just turning over a new leaf or making resolutions as we say we want to do on January 1st each year. But how do we refresh, rebuild, and restore our souls and our lives after the trauma we've lived through? And yes, I said trauma. I am grateful to Betsy Stone, Dr. Betsy Stone, a psychologist who teaches at Hebrew Union College and lives in my hometown of Stamford, Connecticut, for defining what's happened to so many of us during the pandemic. She teaches that trauma is the response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causes feelings of helplessness, diminishes one's sense of self, and the ability to feel the full range of emotions and experiences. Now, I've had the opportunity this year to study with Dr. Stone with our congregation, with the RRGT, the Reform Rabbis of Greater Toronto, with the whole CCAR, the North American Rabbis Movement. But when Dr. Stone was with us at Har Zion via Zoom in February, she asked us, how many of you are suffering from poor sleep, pain every morning from tension from sleep, not thinking clearly, broken teeth, eating when you're not hungry, and feeling like you can't remember anything anymore? And as she asked, I checked off every one of those in my head, including the teeth. Then she told us this is what trauma looks like. Some refer to it as COVID brain. Maybe you've experienced all these symptoms of COVID brain. Maybe you've only had a couple. Maybe your body and mind have found other new and exciting ways to express their reactions to the world we're living in right now. No matter how COVID brain has expressed itself in your life, I think we can all agree that we've lost a great deal during the pandemic. Seeing the people we love, shaking hands, hugging, in-person worship, adult ed and religious school, playing with friends, our favorite restaurants, live music, team sports, theater, movies. We've had funerals for loved ones with only 10 people, shivas on Zoom only, tiny or postponed weddings and B'nai Mitzvah. Let us hope and pray that if we get enough people vaccinated, we can get back to something resembling normal life one day. But with the new year comes the opportunity to start fresh, to renew our souls, to regrow and rebuild ourselves. The Jewish people have lived through trauma and recovery so many times in our history, you'd think we'd be the world's experts. Maybe we are. We're certainly good at turning our suffering and grief into growth. And God knows, if we need to refresh our souls on Shabbat, after only 6 days of work, school, drudgery, routine, and ordinariness, then how much more do we need to renew ourselves after a year and a half? So I offer this list of 6 places we might look for growth and goodness, gleaned from a lot of listening and learning from Dr. Stone and others who understand post-traumatic growth and recovery. 1, awareness of our personal strengths. This is a time to ask ourselves, what am I good at? How have I shown my strength this year? How have I had an impact on my family, my community, and the world around me through those personal strengths? How can I see myself in ways that affirm who I am? Perhaps you've found new ways to show kindness this year. Maybe you've learned that your technological skills are actually not as bad as you thought. As for me, I've become better at doing my work and relating to people on the phone and on Zoom, as challenging as that has been. I've become a better musician on horn and piano, and a better sight reader to boot. So to my childhood music teachers, I must say, you were right. Practicing actually does work. 2, reprioritization of our values. What really matters to me? What are the tasks I've assigned myself for years that just don't seem so important anymore? What once seemed vitally urgent that can easily be postponed? We've all had the chance to spend more time at home with our families, or for many of us, more time wishing we could be spending time with them. Perhaps we've reached out to old friends and found new ways to reconnect. We certainly know that we can manage with less shopping, less eating out, more family time, in person or online, more walks outside, more trips to the dog park. I think many of us have come to understand what's really important in life, and our lives will have changed for the better because of that understanding. 3, relationships. Some relationships have deepened, some have fallen away, and some have changed. We've developed our abilities to give and receive emotional support. We've learned to be more compassionate and more altruistic. We see that our neighbors are more like us than we knew. We've discovered our common humanity and our obligations to the larger community. We've also faced the frustration of dealing with those who think differently than we do. And perhaps we've learned some tolerance for them as well. That's been a tough one for me, I'll admit. But from that frustration and exasperation, I figured out what I need to work on in the year to come. And that is a blessing in itself. 4, a greater appreciation for life and its blessings. More on that tomorrow. But it's worth asking ourselves, what have been this year's Shehechianu moments? Seeing parents and grandparents, children and grandchildren in person for the first time in a long time, the first flowers of spring, getting your first vaccine. God, was that exciting. Or your second, that was exciting too. Watching your children return to camp or have play dates, being in synagogue for a live service, seeing old friends, binge watching Shtisel or Ted Lasso, and I highly recommend Ted Lasso, the greatest Menschlich TV show in a long time. Some of these blessings may seem small, but they are mighty. 5, creativity. Have we found new ways to express our talents that will stay with us post-COVID? Maybe you tried drawing or painting for the first time. I've learned to bake, which to me was never quite as satisfying as cooking. More like science than art. But when you get the science right, it's delicious. Perhaps you've learned a new craft or taken up a musical instrument. Many of you started coming to virtual Torah study this year or attended classes or travel programs on Zoom that enlightened or inspired you. Some began writing journals or stories. This is how we take the sparks of talent and passion given to us by God and turn them into flames of creativity that help light the way through the darkest times. And finally, 6, spiritual change and development. Have you had spiritual experiences this year that moved you? Have you deepened your prayer life? Have you been streaming services and programs that you didn't usually attend live? Have you discovered music, art, or movies that affected you deep in your being? All of these experiences can do much to refresh our souls. Part of our recovery is to decide what in all this madness is worth keeping and what is disposable, what is important and what's trivial. Because our world has changed so dramatically, we may have been able to evolve inwardly like never before. It's a new year, and God willing, it will be a better one. It is time to step back from the crazy details of just making it through each day, of remembering masks and keeping distant, of worrying about this awful virus, though we still have something to worry about. It's time to zoom out and look at the big picture of our lives. What are your strengths? What really matters to you? What deepens your relationships with those you love and care about? What are your Shehechianu moments? What do you love to create? What moves your soul? Only by stepping back from the canvas of life can we see the beauty of who we are and appreciate all the splendor in the world around us. That is how we grow and re-soul ourselves for the year to come. I quote from the incredible Reformed Jewish songwriter, Debbie Friedman, whose words and music have been lifting us up for 5 decades. This song in particular has been speaking to me a lot lately. Wandering aimlessly, confused and alone, there's desert all around. Waters once bitter will be sweetened again when the morning comes. With open hearts, we'll care for each other. Wow, didn't expect that. And when I am lost, you will help me find the way until the morning comes. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Amen.
Give me a sec here. But the other rabbis in the world aren't doing this after the
No, probably not.
See if I can.
sky until the morning comes. With steady hands, we'll touch one another. I'll carry you with me as I go on my way until the morning comes. Wandering aimlessly, confused and alone, there's desert all around. Waters once bitter will be sweetened again when the morning comes. With open hearts, we'll care for each other, and when I am lost, you will help me find the way until the morning comes. Wandering aimlessly, confused and alone, there's desert all around. Waters once bitter will be sweetened again when the morning comes. With open hearts, we'll care for each other, and when I am lost, you will help me find the way until the morning comes. With open arms, we'll hold one another. You are the promise that tomorrow's yet to bring when the morning comes. Until the morning comes.
I'm glad I got to play it. Otherwise, I would have just cried for the whole thing.
Hard to play the French horn and cry at the same time.
That is true. That is true. We turn now to page 286 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתקד ולהיוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כחמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים מודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. There are stars up above, so far away. We only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 292. At this time, our Hartzion family extends its sympathies to our members and their families who have suffered a recent loss. Jordan and Melissa Kate, Jonah and Madison, Amanda and Sam and Sedona, on the loss of their mother, mother-in-law, grandmother, and great-grandmother, Helen Klingman Kate. Karen and Michael Rothstein on the loss of their brother and brother-in-law, David Etlin. Heather and Robert Skolthorpe, Alexander and Allison, Jeremy and Elena, Bo and Leo on the loss of their father, father-in-law, grandfather, and great-grandfather, Harry Weinstein. We remember those whose yahrzeits we observe on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Erwin Borens, Sidney Brown, Ben Fromowitz, Saul Hyman, Dolby Rediker, Regina Schiller, Sharky Starkman, and Rachel Whitehead. If anyone has a name to share for Kaddish that I did not, here or at home, please share their name aloud. We rise together as one community, wherever we are. We remember, too, at this time, those members of our armed forces who have died fighting overseas, our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael who have died in so many wars, and all the innocent people of this world who have lost their lives to violence, conflict, hatred, the chaos of nature, or neglect, as together we pray. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha briachu. Le'ela kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav. Huya asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And together we say, Amen. Please be seated. At Temple Hartzion, we acknowledge that we are situated on traditional territories and treaty lands. The territories include the Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, and the Métis Nation. As Jews and as a community, may we always strive to fulfill our Jewish value of tzedek tirdof, the pursuit of justice in our society. And before we get to the conclusion of our service, we have a very special new friend to welcome, and that is Mika Sella, our Shinshinit. Huh? What? It's your turn, Mika. Oh, okay. Well, it's the only one I could find, Mika. Okay. Well, we'll go to your next slide right away. But anyway, there we go. See, I did it. Okay. So last year we got to know Lior only virtually. In fact, we finally got to meet her a couple weeks ago before she left. She was at camp, and actually Brina brought her to the synagogue, so we all got to finally meet her in person. But Mika is here for the year, and we are so excited, and she is going to introduce herself.
Nervous, so if I make mistakes or my voice starts shaking, please.
You'll be great, but
bear
Mika,
with
if
me.
you pick one side so
Okay.
you're closer to a mic, that'll work better.
I got it. Oh, there we go. So, first of all, shalom lekulam. My name is Mika Sella. I'm 18 years old. I live in Petach Tikva, and I'm your new UJ Shinshinit for the year. So, I want to open my first davar by saying Happy Rosh Hashanah and Shana Tova to all. Please, next slide. This is the first Rosh Hashanah I've ever spent far from home. Back at home, my father's side of the family, which in numbers equals to about 100 people, and there aren't 100 in this picture, but you'll have to believe me, it's large, have a yearly get-together, create incredible meals and scents, sing together, and catch up. Still, even though I'm not at home, I feel as if I'm carrying on the tradition by being here, since Temple Hartzion is my new family. I do hope the get-togethers will be a little more frequent than once a year, though. Okay, next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, I come from Petah Tikva, which is one of the biggest cities in Israel, but still better known as that suburb, which is kind of a 50 ride from Tel Aviv if there's no traffic, and if there is, it turns into half an hour. But, and I won't even sugarcoat it and say that's half as interesting as Tel Aviv, but I still love Petah Tikva for all that it is. Concrete, bad mayors, and boredom. Now, you can see the center of Petah Tikva is in the middle picture, and then there's my neighborhood on the left side, and my old school on the right side. So, next slide, please. I've been in the Israeli Scouts for almost half of my life, working in different positions, growing and learning a bit more about myself and my abilities each year, as well as giving back to the place that allowed me to be myself in the most honest ways. So we've got pictures of me from every year that I was an instructor and head of a team, and a bunch of stuff I've done in the last 3 years. Next slide. High school. In the past years, I've studied in a special class called Nachshon, which is made to strengthen learning and leading skills in students. I majored in chemistry and biology, and then I concluded that I'm definitely not going to be studying neither when the time to go to university comes. It's just going to take a while. Yeah, perfect. So back at home, I've got an older and a younger sister, which makes me the spicy and always blamed middle child. You can see my sisters, that's them, and my parents, and we'll get to that. I've also got 2 pet chinchillas, which might sound funny to some, but are pretty much the loves of my life. We've got Otis, that is the gray one, and Amosos, that is the white one. Yeah, Amosos, yes. Having them brought a different meaning to my days during lockdown and made everything a lot more fun for me. So, my mother is a CEO of Adler Institute in Israel, and my father owns a bakery chain, works in the real estate field, and also does accounting. The love for music and the will to study it I got from my father, while the social side of my life definitely came from my mother. I played the guitar and used to play the trumpet professionally, which is why I love the French horn.
We're going to play some duets for sure.
Perfect. And I'm also a big lover of music and pop culture in general, which is something that I've heard that we share. Very great. Now, next slide, last one. If you've been wondering how and why doesn't this Israeli have a stronger Israeli accent, the answer is actually Toronto. Very sorry for that. My family lived here for a few years. Between 2006 and 2010, I was 3 when I got here and 7 when I left, while my mother was a shlichat aliyah for UJA. We were even here to see the first UJA Shinshiniyot ever, so you can only imagine how exciting it is for me to come back here as a Shinshinit myself. I truly can't believe that I'm here yet, and I can't wait to make this the best year ever. And you've got pictures of me from 3 years old, and then with my komuna, and with my father on a visit here, just a bunch of pictures. So to close my first devar, I would like to thank everyone who was involved in getting me here, everyone that will be working with me here at Temple, and to anyone who is still listening to me right now after a few long minutes of me talking. So, yeah. And especially Judy and Ian Silver for being the best host family ever, with Judy also being my Wonder Woman of a supervisor. And Shelley Badger, who is watching from home, for being the greatest lay leader in the world. Thank you all so much. Happy Rosh Hashanah for me, your 2021 to 2022 UJ Shinshinit. We're done. A lot of pressure.
We know the rest of your Divrei Yisrael will be great. You won't be nervous, but you did beautifully. Thank you, Mika. Okay, a few announcements. First, thanks to Emil and Shirley Kahimkar, who years ago, long before COVID, decided that we should be able to stream our services for people who can't get here. And we've been doing it ever since, and we were ready for COVID when it came, so we could share our services with everybody who's not here today. I want to thank Dora and Isai Scheinberg. There's a brochure about the new fund in their name you'll hear more about on Kol Nidre, but I also want to thank them for funding our brand new sound system, which I hope you agree that we do, that just sounds incredible. Okay? Whenever I don't hear somebody well enough or I hear them too much, I can adjust my personal monitor from my phone. It's amazing. Unbelievable. We just have to, I know I fidget with the thing here, but I'm getting used to it. Let's see. And I want to thank all of you before I go on for walking in that door. Betsy Stone told us when we first met that when we're ready to reopen the building, we better put a few benches outside for the people who thought they could walk in and then decided they couldn't, but you all walked in and you stayed, and we're so grateful because it means so much to all of us. And for those of you at home, we're grateful for you too. So when your turn comes and you're feeling able, come and join us live. I want to welcome Cantor Littman's parents, Bruce and Rose. And as Bruce said to me last night, you know, they've been watching from New Jersey all year since Cantor Littman got here, but there's nothing like being here in person. So for those of you out there, we're glad you're streaming, but there's nothing like being here in person. So when you're feeling ready, come and join us. We're open for Shabbat, too. We do that every week. Our children and family program will happen at 1:30 today, and families at home are welcome to stream with us. 5:45 this evening, we'll do blessings again for second day dinner. Join Cantor Littman and me, along with Karen and Alyssa, via Zoom. Immediately following our closing song and blessing, we're going to go for Tashlich. Give us about 5 minutes to get our robes off and everything and get the copies of the service. Now, I've been told that thanks to last week's storm, the path down to the river is not accessible. There is a tree in the way. So that's going to be fixed later. But in the meantime, what we'll do is everybody can grab a leaf or a little bit of grass or something, and we'll go to the back of the fence, back of the yard, and you'll just throw it over, and some of it eventually will get to the river. Okay? That's what we got to do. Second day service tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you're registered, we'll see you here. If not, you're welcome to live stream. If you're at home and you're not here for Tashlich, we will do Tashlich again tomorrow, and that tree may be out of the way. But either way, if you're not able to be here for Tashlich, thanks to our president, Sherry Davis, we have some do-it-yourself Tashlich materials online. So you can go online, find some of those, and find a body of water and do Tashlich on your own. Please refer to Thursday's e-blast for links and details on Kol Nidre and Yom Kippur. Go to heartzion.ca. And I'm told, and if this needs explanation, just tell me. We are going to leave we're going to clear out starting at the social hall, right? And we're going to clear out kind of by rows so that we can keep our distance from each other. When you get outside, let's do the same, okay? We'll stay distant, keep masks on for now, and then, you'll do as you like. But so we'll start with the back of the sanctuary, this side, and are people going out all doors? What's the story? Yes. Okay, so you can go out all doors, but start from the back of the room. When the row behind you has cleared, then you go, just so we can all stay as safe as possible. Thank you, Serge, for making everything sound great today. Thank you, Cheryl, for playing flute so beautifully. Eleanor and Cantor, you're the best team in the world. You really are.
Love that French horn, though, Rabbi.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Stout is up there in heaven, if that's where he is, hopefully kvelling. Okay. I hope.
I've only heard good things.
Huh?
I've only heard you say good things about Mr. Stout.
Yeah, mostly. Okay, anyway. We are going to conclude this morning singing Hayom. And if you want to join in softly into your mask, you can sing Amens with us.
Letova, תכתבנו לחיים טובים. אמן. 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 היום תעמסנו אמן. היום תשמע שוועתנו. אמן. היום תתמכנו במנזיקך. אמן. 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 היום תעמסנו אמן. 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 היום תעמסנו אמן.
Please rise. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'yimotenu, shetechadesh aleinu shana tova u'metuka. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year, may it be a sweet year. Shana tova.
שנה טובה.